So let's start. Hi, hello, great day, everyone. Our lesson for today is about non-finite clauses. So for the table of contents, we have forms of non-finite clauses and omissions from non-finite clauses, complementizers in non-finite clauses, functions of non-finite clauses, and the last one we have non-finite clauses as complements of be. Of course, before anything else, let's first find out what non-finite clauses are. In the first half of the chapter, we treated the various types of finite clauses. We turn now to non-finite clauses, where the verbal element is not marked for person, number, or tense. By definition, non-finite clauses are always dependent or embedded since a main clause must have a finite verb. So now, let's proceed on the forms of non-finite clauses. The first one is to infinitive. The to infinitive is a form of non-finite clauses in English grammar. It consists of the base form of a verb preceded by the word to. So we have to remember the word to. These are like action plans that start with to and the base form of a verb. Like for example, to eat, to play, to learn. So this structure is commonly used in various contexts to express purposes, intentions, desires, obligations, and more. So to infinitive, it can be a noun, adjective, or adverb. The second one is the ing participle. So the ing participle in non-finite clauses is when a verb is in the ing form and act as a noun in a sentence. So, like for example, swimming in the pool or reading a book. So we have another example here. I am, the am is verb. We have here the jump. So the jump is also a verb. So it cannot be in in the sentence. That is wrong. So in order to correct it, we have to add the ing on the jump. So I am jumping. Am is a verb and jumping is adjective. So that is correct. Try coming up with a sentence using an ing participle, like I enjoy dancing. I enjoy dancing in the rain, or as a as my example, uh, on the first, we have the swimming in the pool or reading a book. Did you get me? So I hope so. So the last one is bare infinitives. So bare infinitives are the base form of verbs used without to. They follow modal verbs, certain verbs like make, let, help, and in imperatives. So bare infinitives are the base form of verbs used without to. They follow modal verbs. What is a modal verb? We have here the modal verb, after modal verb. So the first one is can, could, must, might, may, shall, should, will, would, and needn't. We have here also an example. I might leave soon. Might leave um, is a modal verb. So the next one is Joe needn't come if he doesn't want to. So the modal verbs is needn't come. So another example, she can swim. Let him go and close the door. As you guys can see, we don't use the words to because based on their infinitives, um we can construct a sentences without using to be based on their infinitives. So yeah, and that's it. Non-finite clauses are like our words, superheroes, helping us express actions in different styles. Try using to infinitives, ing participles, and verb infinitives in your sentence to make them more exciting. So, thank you for exploring non-finite clause form of non-finite clauses with me today. I am now passing the floor for our next reporter, Miss Trisha Bersela Sora.
So, okay, rinig ba ako?
Yes, you are.
Next slide, please. Next slide, Alvin. So, so now we know what is non-finite clauses and forms of non-finite clauses. Let's proceed to the omissions from non-finite clauses. So, non-finite clauses are often incomplete and lack of necessary elements, such as subject or direct object. These clauses are referred to as phrases in a traditional grammar, but they are better understood as derived from incomplete through the omission of obligatory element. The omissions in non-finite clauses are known as a pro or big pro, or mean pro is for pronoun. Pro is refers to the phonetically null and subject and object noun phrases or NPS in non-finite clauses. So next slide, please. So there are two types of pro. First is controlled pro, and the second is indefinite pro. Next slide. So controlled pro is refers to a situation where the missing element in a non-finite embedded clause is the same as an element in the main clause. This missing element can be the subject, object, or indirect object. In cases of control pro, the omitted element can be inferred or understood from the main clause. This means that even though the element is not explicitly stated in the embedded clause, it can be reconstructed or filled in based on the information provided in the main clause. Controlled pro allows for more efficient and concise sentence structures by omitting redundant information that can be easily inferred from the context. So next slide, please. Albert, next slide. So I have here an example of controlled pro. So the original sentence, pro, I, I want pro to do well. And the reconstructed sentence is I want. The to is replaced to I, and they become I do well. So next slide, please. So, so the second example is of controlled pro is original sentence is it's raining outside, and when we reconstructed the sentence, the weather is raining outside. These examples are about using pronouns or prose sentences and then reconstructing them by replacing the pronouns with a specific name or nouns. It's a way to practice using pronouns correctly and understanding how they work in sentence. Next. Next. So the second types of um, pro is indefinite pro. So indefinite pro is one where the missing element in the non-finite clause can be filled with general pronoun like you or one, unlike controlled pro, which requires a specific element from the higher clause. Indefinite pro allows more general replacement. So it means that indefinite pro refers to a situation in which the missing element in a non-finite clause can be replaced by a general pronoun. This means that the missing subject or the object in a non-finite clause can be understood or implied using a general pronoun rather than a specific noun phrase from the higher clause. Indefinite pro also provide more more flexibility in sentence construction and allows for broader interpretation or missing element. So next slide, please. So we have here a example of indefinite pro. So the original sentence is anyone can participate in a competition. When we reconstructed the sentence, it is replace anyone to any person, and they will be any person can participate in the competition. So anyone is replaced to any person. Next slide. So another example of indefinite pro. The original sentence is someone left their bag on the table. When we reconstruct the sentence, the original sentence, a person left their bag on the table. So the someone is replaced to the a person left their bag on the table. So that's for the two types of omission from non-finite clauses of a controlled pro and indefinite pro. Now, I'm passing the mic to the next presenter.
Go
So
na. Wait lang.
good
Wait lang, ate ka, wait lang. Eto na, go. One. Sorry ah. 1, 2, 3, go.
good evening everyone. So am I loud and clear?
Yes, you are, ate.
Okay, thank you. Um at this point of the report, we were going to study the function of non-finite clause in a sentence. So as discussed a while ago by Mr. Villacorta, non-finite clause has a four types or forms, right? So they bear infinitives, two infinitives, ing participles, and last one, of course, the en or n participles. So now we were going to talk about the uh, function of non-finite in a sentence. So the grammatical function of non-finite clauses are the same as those we identified for finite clauses, which is reported by the previous group. So there are 7 main function of non-finite clause in a sentence, but remember that not all forms of or types of non-finite clauses can serve as a function. Okay, so let's start with the first function, which is the subject. So the non-finite clause can function as a subject. I believe that we already know what subject is, so I don't need to elaborate it. So when a non-finite clause acts as a subject of a sentence, it takes on the role typically performed by a noun or pronoun. So they are starting the sentence, and they are also indicating what the sentence is all about. So in short, they become the main topic of the whole sentence. So, and just like what I said before, not all forms of non-finite clause can serve as subject in the sentence. So the only um, forms of non-finite clause that can serve as a subject is to infinitives and ing participles. So to better understand this topic or this function of non-finite clause, let's have an example. Next slide. So here we have the sentence to travel the world requires careful planning as our example. So let's identify first what is the non-finite clause in this subject. So the non-finite clause in this sentence is the praise to travel the world. And as you can see here, the praise to travel the world is the subject of the sentence. So this is where the sentence is all about. Okay. That's is the first function of the non-finite clause in a sentence. Now, I I also provide you a video explanation to discuss this topic further. Please, next slide. So I don't think it has an audio because of the internet connection. So let's just skip it. Now let's proceed to the second function of non-finite clause. Next slide, please. So the forms of non-finite clause, to infinitives, ing participles, and en participles can also serve as a subject complement. So when a non-finite clause serves as subject complement, it provides additional information to the subject. So it can describe or modify the subject. So to better understand it, let's have an example. Next slide, please. Okay. Here, the sentence, her first job was selling computers. So in this sentence, our non-finite clause is the phrase was selling computer. So as and these non-finite clause function as a subject complement because it adds information to the subject, right? So what is her first job? The non-finite clause is was selling computer, right? So that's how non-finite clause functions when works when it functions as a subject complement. So in the next slide, I also provide a video explanation, but because of the internet connection problem, we will just skip it. So let's proceed to the third function of non-finite clause, complement of adjective. So the third function of non-finite clause is complement of adjectives. So both to infinitives and ing participles can serve as a complement of adjective. So uh, when we say we all know that some adjectives need extra information to complete their meaning, and um, and that is the function of non-finite clause in the sentence. So just like in subject complement, non-finite clause also provide a additional information here. So the only difference is it provides additional information for adjective and not subject. Okay, so for example, next slide. Let's have this sentence. He is happy to attend school. So in this sentence, our non-finite clause is the praise to attend school. So it functions as complement of adjective because if we identify our adjective in the sentence is the word happy, and the praise to attend school um, provides additional information to the word or to the adjective. Okay, next slide. Okay, another video explanation, but we were going to skip it again. Next slide. So the next function of non-finite clause, the fourth function is object of preposition. So this function um, is for ing participles only. So we all know that prepositions are words that shows the relationship between nouns or pronouns and other words in a sentence. So it's like a bridge that connects two words. Okay, so the object of the preposition in the noun or pronoun um, that follows the preposition. So let's have an example so that we can explain it better. Next slide. Okay, let's have this sentence. We talked about going to the movies. So here, going is the object of the preposition about, and it provides more information about what they are talking about. Okay, so that serves as the function of the non-finite clause. So let's proceed to the fifth function. Next slide. Another video explanation, but we were going to skip it again. Next slide, please. Okay, so our fifth function is adjunct adverbial. So this function is for two infinitives and ing participles and en participles. So as discussed from the previous group, adverbials are words or phrase that modifies or provide more information about a verb in a sentence. So they can indicate time, place, manner, reason, or purpose. So that is the function of the non-finite clause here in this function. So let's have a example. Next slide po. So, okay, let's have this. To get ahead, you need to work hard. So here, the phrase to get ahead is our non-finite clause. And it acts as an adverbial because it indicates the purpose or the reason of working hard to achieve a goal. Okay. Now, let's proceed through the second to the last function of non-finite clause in a sentence. Next slide. So next function, we have modifier of noun. So from the word itself, it's very easy to understand. Here, the function of non-finite clause is to modify the noun. So just like in the previous function, to infinitives, ing participles and en participles can serve as a modifier of a noun. So for us to better understand, modifiers are words or phrase that provides more information about a noun. So these are the words or phrases that can describe or give more details about the noun. So let's have an example. Next slide. Okay, let's have this sentence. The result of investigating in that stock were very good. Let's identify where is the non-finite clause here. So the non-finite clause here is the sentence or is the phrase of investigating in that stocks, and it functioned as a modifier of noun. So because here in this sentence, the noun is the word result, right? And the non-finite clause that we already mentioned is modifying the noun or the word result. Okay, just that's how non-finite clause function if it is in modifier of noun. Okay, next. Let's keep it again. Next. So now, for our last function, we have complement of noun. So here, just like in the previous functions, complement, we already know that complement means adding another information about a certain word, right? So, but in this case, um, since the non-finite clause function as complement of noun, then the non-finite clause is providing additional information to the noun in the sentence. Okay. So let's have an example. Next slide. Okay, let's have this sentence as our example. The decision to leave the company was unexpected. So here, the word, the praise to leave the company was unexpected is our non-finite clause. So and it function as a complement of noun because we already know that the word decision is the noun, and our non-finite clause tells something or adds some information about the word noun. Okay, that's the end of my part here in this report. I hope you learned something, and I believe that it's really easy to understand. So I hope that you understand my explanation. Now I'm passing the mic to the next reporter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we will discuss the complementizer. So, in non-finite clauses, a complementizer is a word or phrase that introduces a subordinate clause that functions as a complement of a linking verb. The complementizer word for is commonly used in non-finite clauses to introduce a subordinate clause that provides additional information about the subject of the main clause. So the role of the complementizer in non-finite clauses is to link the subordinate clause to the main clause and to indicate the relationship between the two clauses. So, for example, the the sentence, I want to eat sandwich because I'm hungry. So in this sentence, though in this sentence, the words because I'm hungry is a non-finite clause that functions as a complement of the linking verb want. So the complementizer word for is used to introduce the non-finite clause, which provides additional information about the subject of the main clause I. So the non the non-finite clause words because I'm hungry does not have a subject of its own, but it relies on the subject of the main clause I to provide the necessary information. The complementizer for helps to establish a relationship between the main clause and the non-finite clause, and allows the non-finite clause to provide additional information about the subject of the main clause. So in summary, the complementizer for in non-finite clauses is used to introduce a subordinate clause that provides additional information about the subject of the main clause, and it helps to establish a relationship between the main clause and the non-finite clause. So to know and understand more, I will pass the floor to the next reporter, Mr. Melendez.
Thank you so much, Edley. Hello, class. Good evening. Tonight I will discuss the uses about complementizers in a non-finite clause. Next, next, next slide. Okay, thank you. Its uses, infinitives, principles, or gerunds, and complementizers such as for or to are common, and also the relative clause. Next slide. Albert, next slide. Okay, thank you. Infinitive clause. So what is a clause? A clause is a group of words that has subject and a verb. Now, the first thing that you have to understand about the infinitive clauses, they are kind of not really clauses because we don't have a conjunction to begin the clause. We begin the clause with an infinitive verb, and then we followed with a noun clause, okay? So some people will not call this a clause. They will just call it an infinitive phrase with a noun clause object. But it's much easier just to think as a noun because the complete thing the infinitive plus the noun have a function together. You can really split them up, okay? And you will understand what I mean when we look at my example. So the clause begins with a infinitive verb followed by a noun clause. So look at my example. With the infinitive, we're going to use them. We're going to use the infinitive clause as complements or as object. We can use them as subjects, but we will look at the separately. The principal was happy to learn that his budget would increase next year. So first thing you want to identify is the independent clause. Like, what is the actual sentence? So the principal was happy. Okay, that is your actual independent clause. But would this sentence be complete? The principal was happy. Well, it can be, but it doesn't really give the listeners or the readers the information they need to understand the full context, okay? Was he happy because he got a birthday cake? No. Was he happy because his child finally started to walk? No. So I need to complete this idea of happy by adding a complement, okay? A complement is something that completes the idea, remember? So, he was happy. Why? To learn. Now, to learn is also not enough because this is the transitive verb. This match has an object to learn what? To learn what? That his budget would increase next year, right? That his budget is a subject. Verb is a word increase next year. I put in a bracket because I can take it out. It is not the subject. I can remove it. So now the whole thing to learn that his budget would increase next year, the whole clause works as a complement to happy. Explain why he was happy, okay? Next slide, please. Next slide. Hello? Next slide po. So let's proceed current clauses. Let me give you 3 sentences. Drinking water is healthy. I am drinking water. Is this drinking water? So you can see in 3 sentences, we have drinking, but only one of them is a gerund. Number 1, drinking water is healthy. Drinking is gerund. Number 2, present continuous. Number 3, drinking water is a noun and drinking is the adjective that describes drinking water. Let's take a look. Why number 1 is the gerund? Because of plus ing, right? What is current? Swimming, dancing, playing, doing, feeling, closing, trying, typing, and etc. I think you get the idea, right? A gerund is the infinitive plus ing. They look verbs, but they function as a noun. We use gerund when we want to focus on the general idea of an activity, not the specific action. Next page po. Okay, here's the tip. If you want to begin your sentence with a verb, use a gerund. Of course, they are exceptions. With imperatives, use the infinitive. For example, close the door, sit down. We would not use closing the door, sitting down. Okay, next page. A gerund function as a noun. Don't forget a gerund function as a noun. So I could say the best part of a meal is eating dessert. Dessert is also a noun. Eating, I'm really focusing on that action. Don't confuse current and continuous tenses. The best part of a meal is eating dessert. My dog is eating my dessert. The first one is a gerund. The second one is the present continuous. Gerund follows specific verbs. For example, next page. Okay, yan. For example, I avoid eating too much sugar. So this to eat and eat is not use the gerund. After avoid use a gerund, I avoid to eat. I avoid eat. So let's proceed the next. We deferred signing the contract until our solicitor has taken a look at the contract. All these verbs are followed by a gerund because that's the grammatical rule. Next page po. Okay, participle clauses. Firstly, what is a participle verb? A participle clause is a subordinate clause that begins with a participle. So like adverbs, it's a way of linking two smaller clauses together in a complex sentence. They can give more information about a verb or an idea in a sentence. So they usually showing like, event, order, time of cause, or effect. So three kinds of principal causes. So present, past, and perfect. Next page. Okay. Firstly, let's look at the present participle. The form is a verb plus ing. For example, going, reading, seeing, walking. So when you want to talk about an action that happened at the same time as another action, you could say, we lay on the beach gazing up at the night sky. This means we lay on the beach and gaze up at the night sky. So, or to give a reason for an action or a cause. For example, knowing she loved reading, Richard bought her a book. This means because he knew she loved reading, Richard bought her a book. Okay. Participle clause can also use to give the result of an action. The bomb. Okay. Next na. Next. Tama ba? I don't. The bomb exploded, destroying the building, or to add information about the subject of the main clause. For example, starting in the next year, the new policy bans cars in the city center, or we can use participle clause adjectively. For example, look at the man sitting on the bus. This is look at the man who's sitting on the bus. Now, let's proceed to past or passive participle clauses. The form is just the past participle such as gone, with, seen, and walk. So, like present participle, they can be used to give a reason for another action as in this. Example, worried by news, she called the hospital. Or to add information about the subject of the main clause. For example, although badly wounded, I managed to take cover behind a building, which means although was badly wounded, I managed to take over behind the building.
So good day everyone, Alerosa is speaking. Now let's move on with non-finite clauses as complements. Next slide, please. All right. When we say non-finite clauses as complements of the verb, it simply means that this type of clauses help to complete the meaning of a verb in a sentence. Simple as that. Next slide, please. So, how non-finite clauses work as complements? Non-finite clauses can be used as complements to verbs in three ways. First, we have here infinitive clause as complements. Second, gerund clauses as complements. and last, participle clauses as complements. So first, let's talk about infinitive clauses. Next slide, please. Thank you. So infinitive clauses, it use the base form of the verb, often starting with the word to. They help to complete the meaning of verbs that can be followed by this form. So for example, we have here a sentence. She plans to start a new job. So to define the Bert, hintay mo ako mag-next, mag-next. Tawag dito, mag-next slide. Ulit. From the top. Okay, ako na lang magsabi ng ng next, ganun.
Diretso mo lang. Pagka mali, ipabalik mo. Go na.
Sige. So, good day everyone. Alirosa as complements of the verb. Next slide, please. So, non-finite clauses as complements, it simply means that these type of clauses help to complete the meaning of a verb in a sentence, as simple as that. Next slide, please. So, how non-finite clauses work as complements? Non-finite clauses can be used as complements to verbs in three ways. First, we have here infinitive clauses as complements. Second, gerund clauses as complements. And last, participle clauses as complements. So next slide, please. First, let's talk about infinitive clauses. So when we say infinitive clauses, these use a base form of the verb, often starting with the word to. They help to complete the meaning of the verbs that can be followed by form. So we have here sample sentence. She plans to start a new job. So first, we need to define or dissect this sentence to define the infinitive clause. So next slide, please. So here, we need to define the subject, verb, and infinitive clause, where the subject is the person performing the action. The verb is the action being taken, and the clause that use provide what is being planned or need to do. So the subject in this sentence is she. The verb is plans. And the infinitive clause is to start a new job. So the phrase to start a new job tells us what she is planning. It completes the meaning of the verb plans. Did you get it? All right. Now, next slide, please. So we have here another example of infinitive clause. Can you define the infinitive clause in this sentence? All right. Next slide, please. So let's see if your answer is right. So in this sample sentence, the subject is they. The verb that used is hope, and the infinitive clause is to visit Paris soon. So the phrases to visit Paris soon shows that they hope for it. So it completes the sentence of the verb hope. Is your answer right? Did you get what is infinitive clause? All right, now let's move on with the gerund clauses. Next slide, please. So when we say gerund clauses, it uses the verb in its ing form because it's a gerund. So these are used with verbs that are followed by this form. So in this example, we need to define the subject, verb, and the clause. So next slide, please. So the subject is, in this sentence, is she, and the verb that used is enjoys, and the gerund clause that used is reading historical novels. So the phrase reading historical novels tell us what she enjoys, and it completes the meaning of the verb enjoys. Did you get it? All right, let's have another example. Next slide, please. All right. So in this sentence, he avoided talking about his vacation. Next slide, please. Now let's define the subject, verb, and the clause. So the subject here is he. The verb is avoided. And the gerund clause is talking about his vacation. So the phrase talking about his vacation, he avoided. It completes the meaning of the verb avoided. Did you get it? All right. Now let's move with the last clause. Next slide, please. So when we say participle clauses, it uses verbs in forms like ing or present participles or ed, past participles. They can give extra information, but are less common as direct complements. So in this example, the child was seen playing in the park. Now let's define the subject, verb, and the participle clause. Next slide, please. So the subject is the child. The passive verb phrase was seen, and the participle clause is playing in the park. So the phrase playing in the park tell us what the child was doing. It adds extra information about the child's action, but isn't always needed to complete the meaning of the verb was seen. Did you get it? All right. So to easily define when to use each type of these clauses, when we use infinitive clause, we use it when you need to show what someone wants to do. Okay? Again, we use infinitive clauses when you need to show what someone wants to do. And we use gerund clauses when you need to show what someone likes or avoids doing. Okay? Again, we use gerund clauses when you need to show what someone likes or avoid doing. And lastly, we use participle clauses for extra details about what is happening, but not always for a direct complement. Okay, again, we use participle clauses for extra details about what's happening, but not always for a direct complement. Did you get it? So I hope this helps you to understand how non-finite clauses can complete the meaning of the verbs. With that, thank you.